We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated. Secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
Today we have with us Dr. Dawn Browning. She is a scientist, a yoga therapist, and type 1 diabetic, bridging our nervous system regulation with our metabolic health and energy rhythm design, which I just think is so cool because I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are, strictly on the medical side, and a lot of people out there who are, strictly on the energetic and yoga side and all, and to bridge that for us and really bring the two together and say, like, yes, they function well together, they do well together, and you can actually go further when you make that blend. So welcome, Dawn. We are so excited to have you today.
I'm happy to be here too, Lindsay. Thank you.
So you have a background in like actually having diabetes yourself, which is type 1 diabetes. And that I understand has been a big part of your journey and how you've gotten connected into then helping people with that. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I think I see type 1 diabetes as my greatest teacher. And I was diagnosed with with type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disorder. There's no lifestyle component that contributes to that diagnosis. So I want to be abundantly clear. There's a lot of confusion around that. And I require insulin to live. So were it not for modern medicine, I would be dead. It's like straight and simple. And so I have a respect for modern medicine that, I think a lot of people do. And I also am a devoted student and practitioner and teacher in the subtle healing arts that encompass yoga, that includes pranayama, as well as aromatherapy and some other of these modalities that have been used for millennia. And I feel like bringing the two kind of those pieces together is one of my like dharma aspects of my dharma of my life's purpose. With respect to diabetes in particular, I was 16 years old when I was diagnosed, so I was old enough to take on the responsibility for caring for myself. And if there are any listeners out there that are parents with children with type 1 diabetes, my heart goes out to you because I know how hard that can be. But I guess looking back on it, because I've had it for almost 40 years at this point, um, I honestly, because I have this condition, I have been a student of my own physiology. Right. Like, so I have lived experiences and stories that have contributed along the way to where I am today that demonstrated crystal clear evidence that your mood and stress can affect your hormones, which I think a lot of us realize that now, but how directly they impact your metabolic function, which is your insulin function in the body, and as well as the power of conscious breathing to short circuit that stress cycle related to the hormones. I've had both of those experiences, and it really I thrive with type 1 diabetes now. And I often say I'm a T1D thriver. And I haven't always been, though, to be entirely honest. And I discovered yoga 25 years ago as a student, and the aromatherapy, the power of aroma to affect mood and Stress hormones came later, but that came in around 2012, so about 14 years ago. And so it was at that time that I started to kind of bridge these, what we call holistic practices into one and my lived experience, and decided I need to share this with others because it has had such a positively and a powerful positive effect on my well-being. And something you said, Lindsay, in the very beginning is that the kind of bringing the science in with I don't know. I'm talking about a number of things: conscious breathing, aroma, and yoga. I'll just call them the subtle art or the subtle healing arts for a moment. They have synergies, and what that means is that they amplify each other. So it isn't just you're adding one thing to another. There's a multiplicative effect that can work in both the positive and the negative. But what I think the reason that I founded my business, Whole Soul Wellness, is to help other professional women and the go-getters, the high achievers, the women that are out there like changing the world for the better and carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders at the same time, that there are these tools that I've discovered that work well together. And so that's what I want to bring to them. So, but it really did with type 1 diabetes. I mean, that's my lens for how I look at everything. I mean, I use technology. So I have an insulin pump and a continuous glucose monitor. And so I know what my I have the data, right? And I analyze it every other week, right? I download it and I look at the patterns to kind of see what was going on that day. But I'm also keeping a close look at it all the time. So that informs my opinion and why blood glucose awareness is a big part of the work that I do.
Yeah, so amazing. I just love how you just seamlessly blend those together. And one of my favorite things that you talked about too, because you and I met at an event in New Mexico and then we ended up at dinner together. And at dinner, you were talking about how, like, diabetes was your path in to this
Mhm.
realm and this journey, right? But it's not only those who currently have diabetes that absolutely need to be paying attention to their glucose, to their metabolic health. Because for me, I've been on a big journey of optimizing my own health since last year. So now everything I look at is through that lens of like, and then so when you said that, it really clicked for me like, yeah, we all need to pay attention to Dawn.
Well, thank you. That was such an awesome. I mean, well, so meeting you has been amazing, and that was such an awesome dinner. And Monica was, yeah. I mean, the whole experience was amazing. And I think I guess one thing I'll say, or one thing I'd like to add to that, and thank you because it is really the women that I was describing earlier. I mean, it really. I think they're already doing amazing things for themselves. They just want to optimize, right?
Yeah.
They want to, and I really, this is such a cliche word, and I don't know of a better word right now to say up level, but it's just like to lift everything up a little bit,
Yeah.
and that's optimizing. And I think when it comes to blood glucose, and I say blood glucose awareness, not necessarily glucose management. And there's a difference there. And I chose that
Okay.
word carefully because I'm not suggesting that I mean, if you want to wear a CGM or continuous glucose monitor for a week to understand your patterns, great, but that's not what I require
Okay.
of people that I work with. But
Yeah.
there are a lot of people. It's a booming industry right now.
Yeah.
I think Stello is the brand that works in conjunction with your Aura Ring. I mean, like it's all integrated
Mm.
now. It's really neat to
Wow.
see. And so I love that that is happening. And I think I just want to go back to like why everyone should be paying attention to what their blood glucose patterns may be
Yeah.
is that so for me, I don't make insulin. I have to take insulin through my insulin pump. That will be the way it is until I die, unless stem cell therapy comes online or it's online. But yeah, anyway, I mean, so if I'm stressed, and the predominant effect on your blood sugar is to elevate your blood glucose. And the reason that is because like it kind of goes back to, our, and we'll talk about our nervous system, but like, if you're triggered and activated, then, your liver dumps sugar into your blood because you have to mobilize, you have to run from that saber-toothed tiger. And but the problem is in modern day, we are stressed, like our body receives those signals, and there is nothing chasing us. It's our thoughts or systems of oppression that are definitely in place. Like I'm not belittling cultural um, oppression, but I think a lot of what we get upset about is from here, right? And and so your liver is still dumping that glucose in the system. So your pancreas has to dump insulin into the system so that that excess sugar can be pulled into your fat and your muscles. And if you're not active, it will go into fat more readily. Like, and so there's all these, and it also causes oxidative stress on the body. So it makes your every cell in the body have to work harder. And so that is why just being aware of your patterns and taking a few steps to kind of like level out that pattern and avoid those spikes can go a really long way. And one more thing I want to say, because I could talk on this for the whole hour, but I know we gotta is your energy levels,
Yeah.
right? So I know this again from direct lived experience. And there are times when your blood sugar trends high, and it's not because you're stressed. It might be because you have an infection or you're fighting off a viral infection or something, internally. Um, but like that spike, every blood glucose spike is followed by a low. That's what they call the Samoji effect.
Okay.
And that roller coaster zaps your energy. I mean, you just want to crawl into a bed, like look down at the floor and find a clean enough spot to like lay down for a nap. Like
Mm.
it could be what causes those afternoon crashes. So, so for everybody out there that's listening to this, the importance of understanding or at least being familiar with your blood glucose patterns affects your energy, affects your metabolic health, affects ultimately your productivity. You're less distracted. I mean, you can stay focused more readily when your blood sugar is in its optimum range, which is probably where most people are most of the time. So I want to point that out, like not to pathologize feeling low energy, but I think it could be, there could be a metabolic um, mechanism at play.
So, what I really love that you're saying here, Dawn, is that, like, yes, there's a medical side to things where we have them and we're grateful for them and we'll apply them. And at the same time, it's so important to also have that awareness of ourselves and know how to regulate and know how to soothe and know how to calm that down so that we're not adding to what's already stressful and what's already overwhelming to our system. We're aiding it and helping it versus, adding that fuel to the fire.
Exactly. And I think, what there's not to get clinical here, but they call it the window of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna, window of resilience, right? Like, so if this is the window, the top and the bottom, and within you're okay, right? Like that's your window within which you can operate. But these tools and things that we're talking about and that I help my clients with, we're just like increasing that area that they can occupy without going into a danger zone, either high or low. And so we're just increasing that window across which you can function optimally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you have, kind of these three core ideas when it comes to our energy and how we're managing ourselves. Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, and it's just funny. I launched my YouTube channel in July of this year, so we're talking in November 2025. And my first video, the audio sadly isn't as great as it could be, but I was like all excited to share these three root causes of why you're low
Mm.
energy and you're doing all the right things. So you can find that there, although you get it better here right now on this podcast. The first of which is this metabolic malfunction, I'll say. Like it's not a disorder. It doesn't mean that you have to be diagnosed with a condition, but it is what I was referring, have been talking about, which is that your blood glucose fluctuates more than it should,
Mm.
basically. So
Yeah.
you have spikes and then you have lows that follow, and we want to stabilize those patterns. And there's things that you can do, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about those. The other is poor sleep. And I think I called it just poor sleep hygiene. You know, the sleep that you're getting isn't like nourishing. It either you're not getting enough of it or it's not as deeply nourishing as it could be. And there's a lot of advice out there, and a lot of it is sound on things to do. Like, I mean, just avoid your screen time before you go to bed, make it a ritual. I obviously include aroma as part of my nighttime rituals. They're just things that you can do. And then not eating at least 2 hours before you go to bed is probably, and it also ties in with the metabolic function because when you sleep, that's when your parasympathetic nervous system is doing the cleaning, if you will. You know, the
Okay.
cleaning crew is coming in, your cells are regenerating, you're eliminating metabolic waste that is built up over the day. And if you're actively digesting because you've eaten right before you go to bed, then it kind of prevents the the waste removal process from happening, and it can have affects
Mm.
everything from your skin, how your skin looks to how your energy feels. Um, and then the third is poor breathing.
Mm.
And this is it's the most overlooked and the fastest to fix. Or it can have an immediate like beneficial effect. And if we think about it, when you breathe in and you breathe out, which you obviously do on autopilot, it's your autonomic nervous system that's regulating that, like your heartbeat and your breath. Those are the two patterns that it is automatically kind of running behind the scenes, if you will. You don't have to think about it. But it's that oxygen and CO2 exchange that happens deep in the lungs, but it also happens at the cellular level. Like every
Mm.
single cell in your body requires oxygen. And if you're not breathing well, and when I say breathing well, it often means that you're not using as much of your tidal volume in your lungs as you. No, I don't think any of us are using all of it, but we can use a lot more of it than we do. And so anytime I am working one-on-one with a client, and the very first thing that I am doing, even without them being aware of it, is I'm looking at their posture and I'm also watching how they breathe because that says a lot. Because we also hold tension in our muscles, which tie up our emotions,
Mm.
and it can keep the muscles around the thorax or the rib cage from expanding, which would allow you to breathe more fully. So the three kind of, I'd say, root causes of low energy, metabolic dysfunction, poor sleep hygiene, and like just not breathing well.
It's amazing because as you were talking about the breathing, I like started breathing deeper. Like, okay, let me get
Oh,
in some more air in
right.
here.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
It's so easy to forget and overlook. And like all of these things you're saying are like they're not new, they're not revolutionary, and yet so many of us don't do them.
Well, yeah, I think we just either we just forget about it,
Yeah.
or often because I do teach. So pranayama is the Sanskrit word for the act of enhancing your awareness of prana, which is the life force energy that's flowing. And it is often mistranslated as breath control. I
Mm.
just because prana is life force energy and yama is control, but it's actually ayama, which is expansion.
Ah, okay.
So it's totally mistranslated, and that's propagated through yoga teacher trainings and yoga classes. And so we were already way too obsessed with controlling things already. We are culturally.
Yeah.
And we need to release control. Like the only thing that you can control is how you respond to a situation or how you handle a situation, right? I can't control what another person thinks of me or what another person's going to do. And so this obsession with control, which it's a little off topic, but I just had to throw that in.
Yeah.
But the fact that pranayama is mistranslated makes people instantly, I don't know what they think when they hear that word. It's often mostly breath work is the word that's just
Yeah.
brushed over everything, which I've started using it just to basically use language that people are using to meet them where they're at.
Right.
But
Yes.
I instantly define what pranayama is and say that's what I'm actually teaching you is awareness of the breath. Because where the mind goes, prana flows. So I think just being aware of your breathing, as you mentioned, you're breathing deeper, and that alone can have a big positive effect. So it doesn't have to be hard, but but we have to consciously remember.
Yeah, right, exactly. That continual return to the self. And when you talk about the control piece, something you said a little bit earlier is like how the emotions get stuck in the muscles, and that can feel really hard for a lot of us to like, okay,
Yeah.
well it's stuck there. Like, what do I do? How do I like I'm really angry about this thing that happened. How do I possibly let go, Don?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I would say I would respond if someone was sitting opposite me and expressing that, I would like be with the anger, like feel
Mm,
it.
yeah.
Don't push it down or run from it. Like experience it. As weird and as hard as that might be. Then we can let it go. We can release it. We can create conditions that allow it to go. And that is often it's different for different people, but movement is almost like the universal method, whether that's shaking the body or it's
Mm,
stretching, the body, if it's because it's held in certain places. And I'm placing my hands where my heart is because we hold a lot here. We
mm.
hold a lot in our mid chest. And so just releasing the muscles in and around this area and the back and the shoulders especially. So that's another way of releasing. But then there's also the mental tie, right? Like the ruminating over what was done. And that can take time. It's not easy, but I often encourage or in my case, if it happens, I write about it. Like I just free
Mm.
write and get it out on the page. And just that process of writing by hand is there's the kinesthetic awareness and transfer of it there. So I think those are the three main things. I mean, like movement, being present with the emotion, movement, and then writing are probably some of the those are the most common methods that I use with clients.
That's amazing. Well, it makes me think of this like when you surrender to the control or let go of the control and surrender, that is when you actually move, things can start moving. Whereas the more you grip and tighten and try to control, the less it's going to do what you want it to do. And it just makes me, as you were talking, it makes me think of that beach ball analogy, like
Hmm.
trying to hold the beach ball under the water, and it just pops up bigger and stronger every time. Versus like if you just let it go, maybe it'll still be there, but it may drift away a little bit further and not be so in your face or such a big splash in front of you.
Absolutely. No, that's a beautiful, that's a kinesthetic awareness and a beautiful example. And when you mentioned that, it reminded me. So I I'm a pranayama teacher in the Rishi culture, Gitananda yoga tradition. So it's a yoga tradition. Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani is the holder of that tradition. He's based in
Mm.
Pondicherry, so it's southern India. And I'm still engaged in study of pranayama with him and my teacher, Deepika, who's based in Wales. And in a recent lecture, I'm not sure what question came up, but and it just flowed through him like, this
Yeah.
grasping that we do is with these clenched fists,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of tension here in the hands. But when we hold our hands like open to receive, and this is also letting go, but it's also the gesture of receiving. Versus if you're like this, nothing's flowing, nothing's moving in or out.
Okay. Yeah.
So can you like just hold this gesture, either figuratively or just kind of mentally, more often is I think would be a good prompt to consider.
Amazing. Thank you for that. All right. So for the person who's listening right now to you, Dawn, and they're like, okay, I got it. I understand it. Where do I actually start? What do I actually do today?
Well, I love this question. And I want to say, first of all, you are a badass. So just smile, roll your shoulders back and down, and just take a deep breath in. And I guess the where I suggest everyone begins is with the breath and
Mm,
awareness of the breath. And you can do this right now by lengthening the spine. That's the primary instruction for good conscious breathing is lengthening the spine, whether you're sitting down or you're standing in the grocery market with your earbuds in. Lengthen the spine and just take a deep breath in through the nose. And then let the breath out through the nose. You can do that 2 more times. It doesn't have to be for any particular breath count. It doesn't have to be visualizing anything, but just pausing to take 2 or 3 conscious breaths can be enough to trigger the mind. Oh yeah, I got this. Because that's what we're doing with conscious breathing and specifically with pranayama practices when you study with a teacher who embodies those practices and is an embodiment teacher is that you are taking over, you are consciously delegating or controlling an unconscious process,
mm,
something that happens automatically.
yeah.
But your brain gets that signal. Like it might be, okay, you're going to breathe in longer and maybe exhale longer. Okay. And that's a direct signal to the brain. So the first step that I, dear listener, would recommend is take 2 or 3 conscious breaths, lengthen the spine, and I really encourage breathing in and out through the nose. We talked a little bit about the nervous system, and I just want to add one more detail about this. And because you'll find a lot of people talking about breath work out there, YouTube, social media, and some of it is really dysregulating, actually. And
Mhm.
so your autonomic nervous system has 2 functions, activate and regulate. And the sympathetic is the activating nervous system, and the parasympathetic is the regulating one. And when you lengthen the exhale, so you force yourself to take a longer out breath, that's activating that parasympathetic nervous system response. So the first thing I'd recommend you do, 2 or 3 conscious breaths without any, like, don't cause any stress on yourself. And then maybe that last breath, you just exhale as long as you can. And you're giving the brain the signal, I've got this. And then specifically the parasympathetic nervous system, just a little boost. So that's generally where I tell people to begin, but there's other things that they can do too. But just to make it easy, that's my first step, I would say.
Amazing. Thank you. I think we can all use the reminder to come back to our breath and come back to ourselves and slow down and step into that down regulation. So that's a beautiful first step. And I know you also have some free gifts and access to some things that help us override stress and return to our focus more quickly. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I created what's called the regulation ritual, and it is a 4-minute guided breath practice. It's an audio that you can download to your phone, so you don't even need to be connected to the internet, although we're all always connected to the internet. But you can download it to your phone and play it anytime you need. So, like if you're waiting in line at pickup for your child at school, or you're waiting for the subway, or you're on the subway, it's a 4-minute guided breath practice that's just this conscious breathing with sukha rhythm. So it's equal count in and equal count out. And it's fast enough. It can work in fast as 90 seconds, but it is
Wow.
a 4-minute exercise. And so you can grab that at my website, and I'll provide Lindsay that link to do that. But that regulation ritual is one easy downloadable tool for conscious breathing that I have. I also have a YouTube channel where I love to teach. So learner is my core strength from the Gallup Strengths Finder, and I'm really taking a step to just teach more. And so on my YouTube channel, you'll find more anything I do, there'll be teaching involved, but there's 2 videos I think where I also guide this conscious breathing practice for the diaphragmatic breathing, which is your low lung breathing, which there's been a number of studies recently published where modern science is verifying what the rishis or the yoga sages have always said, which is it regulates your nervous system. So I would say check out my YouTube channel for other guided practice if you're a visual learner versus the audio that's available from my website. But those would be 2 beautiful ways to kind of just um, tools, I guess, that I've created to help you kind of take your first step.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And we will put the links for those below in the show notes. So for anyone wanting to check that out, that will be there and easy to access. And Don, I just want to thank you so much for your time today, for your presence, for showing up with us and for us, showing us how to, really learn how to regulate. It's not something that you have to just automatically know how to do or be the person that's regulate. It's not a personality trait where it's like, oh, I'm just, a regulated person. No, we can learn it. And it's a skill, right? So that's what we're learning. And there's something we can do that helps our mindset, our physical health, like, medically and spiritually, and bringing that together and integrating all those parts so that we can then step forward and feel better, do better, show up better, and really just enjoy our life. So thank you. This has been such a gift.
You are so welcome. And I want to just add one little thing about productivity because it's a buzzword and it is something that many of us are wanting to boost or increase, right? And what I want to just remind you is that if you can operate from your balanced center, so stable blood glucose, good breathing, healthy boundaries, your productivity will increase as a natural side benefit of doing some of the work that we're talking about and what you help, your clients, Lindsay, do in this great community that you've built here on your podcast. So you are very welcome, and it has been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Don.
Okay. See you.
Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world, and as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well-being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.